Now you chilling with the nicest, the flyest, Defynest Podcast.
How's it going? Oh, I'm sounding pretty good, man. Yo, welcome to Defynest Podcast, where we defy the definition of ourselves in order to be the best, man. I'm your host, Michael Macedo, and we're rolling with another solo episode on this one, man. Episode 16, man. I had to sneak this solo episode in because of something Loon said in the past episode, man. So if you haven't heard that, man, you can go check that out. You know, he brought up like a certain name, and this name, you know, there's some stories behind this name, man. This name goes back, man. It goes back some years, and a whole bunch of people don't know the whole story. And I thought it'd be a good story to tell, especially since in the last episode, Loon brought it up, and you know, we kind of glanced over it like in the conversation because the conversation went in like its own separate direction. And, you know, I had no problem talking about it, but, you know, the conversation flowed a different way. So, yeah, man. So then, like, after we recorded last week's episode, man, I was still talking to Loon, like, after the episode. And, you know, he asked me, he was like, man, you know, I didn't know if you wanted to talk about it like on the camera, but you know, he asked me what happened with Buzz Bounce, man. You know, what happened with Buzz Bounce? And then so yeah, man, I had to tell him the story, man, of, you know, how Buzz Bounce ended, you know. But to tell that part of the story, you know, if I'm really gonna tell the story right, I'm gonna have to take y'all back to like 2003, 2004, around that time, man. That's when the whole story really starts. And that's what this episode of the podcast is going to be, man. So this episode of the podcast is, man, it's going to be called The Story of Buzz Bounce. All right, man. So Buzz Bounce, man, it's a name. Buzz Bounce is a name, not two letters, man. Two words, man, B-U-Z-Z, and then bounce, man, Buzz Bounce, man. And so this was the name of, you know, it was a project, you could call it a company, one of my companies before, man. And this, it was something, you know, that I was working on, trying to get going, man. I wouldn't say like it was already a legit company, man. It was still in the startup phases. You know, it was still very early on, but, you know, it was something that I was working towards, man. So, yeah, man. So let's get into it, man. This is the origin story, man. So let's start into it, man. So let's go back to 2003. 2004. So if you think about it, you know, in 2019 right now, so we're talking about 15 years ago, man. We're talking about 16 and 15 years ago. And the story of Buzz Bounce started while I was in high school. And I remember exactly where I was, man. It was during AP physics class. All right. So AP physics class, senior year, man. So, oh man, that class, man, hated the teacher. I kind of mentioned it before in the earlier podcast, but, yeah, it's, there were some good parts, you know, some good stories came out of that class. And, you know, during the class, you know, I thought the teacher was horrible. She didn't know what she was talking about. So, pretty much it was like you know, I could just do whatever I was just doing whatever I wanted in the class because there was no reason to listen to her because she had no clue what she was talking about, and I'm not going to waste my time listening to that when I could be doing other stuff. Yo, and so in that class, me and my boy Javier Celis, man, which we're going to get into. we're one day, I mean, in those days, man, man, you can think of anything, man. Think of anything, that you could possibly do. And me and Javier were doing it in the back of the class, man, in 2003 and 2004 to kill time, man. You name it, man. We were, I mean, we had fights where we were throwing macaronis, like macaroni, the elbow macaroni at each other, man. We would be throwing that like across the room, just having fun and just like goofing around, playing around, stuff like that. There was times, we get thrown out of class because we were, quote, interrupting and disturbing the class. That was no big deal, but whatever, man. But this one day, we were just messing around in there, and we could say this. All right, so this was senior year, so we were like 17, 18. And by that point, we were already a bunch of alcoholics. Man, big time alcoholics, always drinking, always, partying, that stuff. And in that class, I don't know how the conversation came up or what ended up happening, but we were talking about alcohol, and specifically, I don't know, it was beers, and we're talking about beers, and then we're talking about how this was just just joking around, man, just joking around. We were talking, and he's like, man, like at this time, like especially with like all the beer companies and all the advertisements you would see and all the commercials that come on TV, all the beer companies were pushing light beer. That was the thing, man. Everybody was like, light beer this, light beer that. Our beer has 120 calories. Our beer has 102 calories. Our beer is 91 calories. And this was like their main selling point. So everybody was in a race to get to like the lowest amount of calories in their light beer. And that's what they were really pushing. And man, we were talking, and he's like, man, we don't care about the full, how many calories are in a beer. We're 17-year-old drunks, man. And I was like, we don't give a damn. And then so we just care about the taste. And that's when Javier is like, man, I'm gonna come up with my own beer. And then so that just started a whole conversation, man. And we just ended up that day, and it was multiple days. We ran with this for a while, man. He's like, all right, so man, let's come up with a beer company, man. And so Javier's making like, everybody's going light, man. Fuck it, man. I'm gonna call my beer. My beer is gonna be heavy, man. The opposite, it's gonna be opposite of whatever we're like. All the other beers were going light, man. Javier was like, man, my beer is gonna be heavy. Like, screw that, man. Like, we don't give a damn about how many low calories, low carbs, and all this other stuff, man. So yeah, so he said like, all right, man, I'm gonna make a beer, and it's gonna be called Hob Heavy. And then so like, all right, cool, man. And then he decided like, like Miller Lite is spelled Lite. Bud Light is spelled Light. And you're like, all right, man, he's gonna spell heavy differently. So what he did was he dropped the A in heavy. So it was it's Hob Heavy, but then heavy was just spelled Hevy. So no A and anything. So that was his beer. And then from there, we just started coming up with these whole ideas about like what we could do, and started designing products for the beer. One of his one of his products that he came up with, man, that we sketched out and then drew up, man. It was remember, I don't know the first time I seen this. It was probably a Simpsons episode, man. But you'd see like cartoons, and you could see like in like shows. Probably they probably showed it like Al Bundy on Married with Children probably had one of these, but it was like a baseball helmet. It was a baseball helmet, and that they would have like two cans, like one on each side, and then they'll have a straw that go to your mouth essentially, so you can drink it. So basically, it's a hat with beers attached to it, so you could drink. Yeah. So, but his take on the whole thing was, he's like, man, screw the baseball hat. I want something different. I want something cool, man. His take, he was gonna take a cowboy hat, a sombrero. He's gonna take a sombrero, put like bigger like bottle size tanks on the side, and then turn that into the hat until you could drink from it. And then oh yes, and his name for it was gonna be called was it the Hav Killer or the Heavy Killer? One of those two. It was either the Hav Killer, or the Heavy Killer. And then yeah, man. This just went on for a while, man. This went on for a while, and the idea was it was fun to us, man. Just coming up with what could we do. If we had a beer company, what would we do with it? How would we promote it? What products would we have? This kind of stuff, man. We played around with it, man, because we had nothing better to do in that damn AP physics class. So that's what we did. Yeah, man. So that was fun. And oh man, just thinking back, I'm gonna explain this later on in the story. But I'm gonna explain, like, reflecting back, looking at like the Heavy Killer, the sombrero with the beer on it. I'm gonna tell you, I'm positive that's a stupid idea, and I'm gonna tell you why later on. But for now, I'm just gonna get back to the story. So, yeah, man. So Hav Heavy, the Heavy Killer, man. This beer, that basically we just came up in, like, because our class sucks so bad and we didn't want to, it was nothing better to do. But yeah, it was just an idea we came up, high school, senior year, AP physics class, which I don't know if I mentioned, but I got blackmailed into taking that class. I did not want to take that class, but the year before, I did some stuff, that could have got me in trouble. It could have got me expelled. And the teacher was like, look, I won't tell the principal what happened if you sign up for my AP physics class. So I was like, man, you know what? I was like, I didn't want to go deal with the whole headache of, what would happen if she told the principal. So I was like, fine, all right, I'll take your stupid AP physics class. But yeah, that's how I got into that class. But yeah, so all right, stay on track. I'm gonna stay on track, guys. I'm gonna stay on track. So taking it back, the whole Hav Heavy beer idea, the whole concept, man. We were high school kids, man. There was no way we were actually gonna, we didn't know how we could run a brewery or anything like that, or we actually knew nothing about the whole brewing process at that time, man. But it was, to us, it was like a throwaway idea for fun. But and of course, we brought it up a lot, but it was more like a joking matter. It was just playing around and stuff like that. It was never really like, oh, let's do this for real as a business, because we knew, like, with what money, what money are we gonna start this brewery up, man? I was like, we're broke high school kids, so yeah, it never got too serious. But let's flash forward to 2009. So skip forward 5 years. So this is 2009, and I'm gonna tell you the exact date. And I know this because I found my old notebook, and this notebook is one of my old notebooks from U of H. You know, that I'll take to class to take notes. And this is probably early on in the semester, in my years there. And so every semester, basically, I would get one notebook, and I would use that notebook for all my classes during that semester. You know, so this was just one of the one of my old notebooks that I had already used, but you know, I still, you know, I had a whole bunch of blank pages in there, so you know, I didn't throw it away. So I was like, I'm gonna keep it around. But yeah, in this specific notebook, you know, I would jot down like ideas and just random stuff that would come to my head, and just everything that, you know, that would I felt like I needed to write down, to remember. And I had this thing with my notes that every time I would take a note, like during class, you know, I would start by like writing the date off to the side. I would write the date off to the side just as a way I could like realize, okay, this is what we talked about like on Monday's class. What did we go over like Tuesday class? And so basically it was just a way for me to organize my notes. Like if I'm trying to remember, like, oh, I remember we talked about that on Monday. Well, I could just flip back to my notes. I know exactly where Monday is just by looking at the dates off to the side. So this particular day in 2009, I remember exactly where I was when I came up with the idea. I remember I came up like, you know what? Let me write this down. So in 2009, it was November. I can show y'all the date. It was November 26, 2009, man. I remember that day, and I remember coming up, you know, with this idea, man. It was Thanksgiving Day, and it was a pretty chilly day. Pretty chilly day in Houston, man. It was about like 40 degrees. And it was in the morning, and you know, I was doing my normal Thanksgiving Day routine, which was working, because you know, that's what I do, man. You know, everybody else, you know, takes holidays. You know, I spent years and years and years working every single holiday, man. Not taking days off. So in this particular Thanksgiving Day, it was November 26th, which also happens to be Giddy's birthday. But yeah, so this morning it was cold. I was at the shop, and I remember particularly I was working on this car. Like I had just painted it the day before. And so when you paint a car, let me break down the process. You know, the base coat, and then you throw the clear coat on top. The base coat, basically the color of the car, the paint. And then on top of that, you put a clear coat on top, which is the shiny part that kind of like protects the car from like fading and all this other stuff. And then it just, it's what makes it shiny. So when you paint a car, you know, of course you have to wait for it to dry. And then afterwards, and usually depending on the temperature, you know, and depending on what type of clear you're using, it could take like 8 to 12 hours. So you would paint, usually you paint it one day, and the next day you'll come and sand it and buff it, you know. And so basically what you would wet sand it. And what wet sanding is basically is you take like a very, very fine sandpaper. We're talking like at minimum like 1500 grit, and then you could bump it up to 2000 grit, and then 3000 grit. But yeah, so what this wet sandpaper, this paper does, you use water, you dip it in water, you soak it in water, you use it to basically, you're kind of like using it to basically lightly scrape off like a really, really small top layer of the clear coat. And what this does is it takes off like any like imperfections that might be in the clear, whether it's like dust specks, or in my cases I had to deal with a whole bunch of mosquitoes, man, because mosquitoes are attracted to light. And then so when they see a shiny, layer of clear coat, which is highly reflective, and they see like any like light reflecting into it, they're drawn towards it. So basically what they do is just like fly right into the paint. And usually, depending on how fast and how hard and how early on they get into the paint, it depends on like how far deep they go in and how far stuck they're in the clear coat. And usually they get stuck in there, and then so the next day, or if you catch it early on, you basically take tweezers and you basically pick them off the clear coat, and then you have to either touch up that spot, or basically you try to get off every single leg. You try not to add on any speck of dirts, because all that's going to show in the final the clear coat when it dries. All that's going to show in the paint job. So yeah, I had to deal with like a whole bunch of mosquitoes in the paints. And so basically what wet sanding does is like takes off all the little imperfections. It also smooths out the top layer to give it like almost like a glass finish. So it makes it like super smooth. It gets rid of like any orange peel in the clear coat, and it basically, and then after that, you buff it, and that's what brings back the shine to the clear coat. And if you do it right, you get a real shiny result, and it's really, really smooth. And so in this particular morning, that November 26, 2009, it was cold, and I was, outside wet sanding this car that I painted the day before. And it was really cold, man. And, especially when you're dipping your hand in water and it's cold outside, it's not very pleasant, man. Your hands, can turn like numb. They could basically go numb from the cold. And, and then, wet sanding the actual car, you end up splattering like water on yourself. So then your clothes get wet, and, with the coldness outside, so you get wet and you get your body gets extra cold too. And it's really not fun to do, man. I don't miss wet sanding in the cold at all. But yeah, so that particular day I was like wet sanding the car. And then I just started thinking about oh man, just at that point I was already like halfway out of like leaving the shop, man. I knew it wasn't fun to me anymore. Like it was, especially when I was wet sanding in the cold, I was like, man, I don't want to be doing this forever. And I knew that I was like, man, I need to start thinking about like start thinking about like future ideas and maybe like future businesses that I could start and basically I could do, which, I wouldn't have to be dealing with the whole wet sanding in the cold, and basically make it like have something that's less physically demanding. So yeah, man. So and I was just thinking back, and for some reason, man, one of the thoughts that came to my head was, man, I was like, at this point, in 2009, The whole microbreweries and like craft beer was just starting to pop, and it was getting a little buzz, and it was getting kind of big, man. And then it just made me think. I was like, you know what? That hop heavy beer idea, man. I mean, we came up with that like 6 years ago, and then people are barely catching up to it right now. And I was like, man, we were ahead of the game, like with that idea, man. So it was like, man, we kind of, you know, that was an idea. I was like, man, you know what? That was a really good idea. And we probably should have spent like some more time thinking about like maybe trying to make that happen. And of course, and probably I was, we should have tried. And at this time, I was still drinking, and I was probably, I wasn't drinking as much. I had already calmed down, but it was something like, oh man, I was like, that was a good idea we had, man. And then we kind of let that slide, and we kind of, we were on the forefront of the whole craft brewery idea. I was like I said, 6 years before like it even got any kind of buzz, like we had already came up with the idea. And then I started thinking about like other stuff we would do, man. And then just in particular, a thought that came across my mind was, like what, because I was on the mindset of like, what could I do to create a business, and I was always thinking about, I want to do something that people, aren't doing. I want to do something different. I want to do something, that that basically it'd be something new, exciting, and then something I could do with my friends. That's one thing I was also thinking about, man. If I were to start at that time, I was thinking if I was to start a new venture, I want to do it with my friends, man. I was like, I think that'd be so cool, man. You'd be working, but at the same time, you'd be with your friends, man. And I think that's something, that I would really enjoy doing, man. So the idea that popped into my mind was this drinking game that we would play. Like, and this is something that at that point, I didn't know that. Wait, I found out probably later that day, when I came home and wrote down like the idea in my notebook right there. That's when I probably did a little research, and that's when I probably about. But this the name of this game was called, or we thought it was called Anchorman. And this was a game that that me and let's see who was there originally. I think it was me and Heavy, me and Hav. Yeah, we were one of those nights we went to visit one of our friends, Becca, who was out in Sam Houston. And like this is during college, and so she was going to school out there. We went to go visit her, and then like we were at her apartment, we were drinking, and then they were playing games. And then I think it was Becca that mentioned, like, we were going through games, and we're like, let's see what we could play. It's like, is there a different drinking game? And then she mentioned this one game, and it was called Anchorman. And then so she tried to show us how to play, and she gave us like the rules, and I didn't know at that time. I'm telling you, I didn't know until I actually like Googled Anchorman to try to figure out, like to see, what's out on the internet about and stuff like that. But and maybe it had a little to do to the fact that me and Hav were probably drunk, and her her instructions probably didn't translate right to us, and so we didn't probably interpret it the right way. Well, she tried to explain it, and then somehow we just end up playing our own game. We put our we put our own twist to it. We made up our own rules, and I didn't find out until I actually like Googled it. I was like, to that whole point, I thought it was just a game that, a game that Becca taught us. And then until I Googled it and I realized, oh yeah, no, we're playing a whole different game. This isn't Anchorman. And it turns out, we just, I guess, I don't know, man. You could be like, we're drunks or, we're rebels and, we don't like to follow the rules. So we make up our own rules to the game. But it ended up turning into a game where it's originally like I guess I can, how would I, it was a game that it was kind of like a twist on quarters, bouncing a quarter into a shot glass. And yeah, man. So I think like the original game, the real Anchorman is played, where I think you're trying to make a quarter into a cup. It's almost like quarters and flip cup, like put together, where you're kind of like, I think it was almost like a race with people to. No, I think it was basically like I think, I don't know, man. I forgot already, but it's something like, it's called Anchorman because there's a team and you kind of like, oh, that's what it was. It's quarters. It's basically, first person to make it into like the cup. Then the other team has to drink. And basically the first person drinks as much as they can, and then they pass it on to their other teammate, and then their teammate finishes it. So that's why it's called Anchorman, because you pass on your drink to your teammate. Kind of like the anchor team on like a news station. They kind of toss it to each other. Like, yeah, so you hand your drink over to your teammate, and then they finish it for you. That's what you could do. But yeah, so our game wasn't that. Yeah, our game that had our own little twists was different. And like I found out when I Googled it that day on November 26th, man, I was like, and then I hit up Hav. I was like, man, we don't play Anchorman, right? And then he was like, oh, you're like, I didn't know. I thought we were playing it right. And then he was like, oh yeah, you didn't know? I was like, he's like, yeah, we play it completely different than it's supposed to be played. He was like, and then he was telling me, he's like, yeah, we just made up our own rules. Like, we just told, like, we had like the initial like concept of what Becca told us, but then we just completely did something different. And then so I was like, oh man, so it's not something that's already out there, man. So it's something we came up with. It's something unique. And I was like, no one's doing this. And at that time too, in 2009, this was like when beer pong was getting popular, man. And to this day, I hate beer pong, man. I hate beer pong. I think it is a stupid game. And I say stupid, not just dumb. I say stupid because in the sense that I don't like it because to me it's not fun. It's slow. I mean, games could go on forever. And then like I remember, you'd be at parties and there'll be one table and then there'd be like a whole list of people in line for the next game or whatever, and then it'd be hours and then your turn still hasn't come up. And I hated that, and so I was like, man, if you're playing a drinking game, I was like, the point is kind of drinking. And while playing beer pong, especially if you're already feeling good, feeling a little buzz, man, your accuracy goes. I mean, your accuracy goes. So of course you're gonna miss shots. So the whole process of missing shots and then the ball bouncing off, going everywhere, and then the other person has to track down the ball. It was a process that took forever. It was slowed the game down. And I was like, man, if you want to play a drinking game, you kind of want to get multiple people involved. You want people to have like opportunity to play, and you kind of want to have people to drink, man. People to drink. The whole point of a drinking game is to drink, man. So from that day, I was like, yo, man, that seed was planted. Like, this would be a good idea to do, man. And then beer pong's popping off. It's something I find boring. I was like, this game that we play, this game that was supposed to be called Anchorman, but ended up being called. If you're watching this whole video, you kind of know because I already said it from the beginning. But yeah, I ended up calling it Buzz Bounce. So that was the name that I called it once I realized we were playing a completely different game, and our game was unique, and then our game wasn't Anchorman, which was what we were calling it, and then what we were used to calling it. But our game isn't that. So yeah, man. So the seed was planted that day on November 26th. And then so I started thinking about it, and it was kind of in my mind probably for like probably a year. So it was probably until like late. It was probably like early. I have the dates written in the notebook. I mean, the notes are there. But it was probably, I think it was like November 2010. And it was when I was like, all right, man. Yo. And this was getting towards the November 2010. This was leading up towards my graduation from U of H, which was May 2011. So at this point, I'm still working at the shop, still fixing cars, but I'm more out than in the shop, man. I was like, I don't want to be doing this much longer. Once I graduate college, I'm going to have a lot more free time, and I don't want to spend that time working at the shop. So the whole idea was like, all right, man, I need to come up with something that, I could do as a business for after I graduate from college. And that's when I started running with this idea, man. Like, all right, man, we should come out with this game, man. And I was like, yeah, man. That's what it's in November 2010 is when I was like, all right, I'm gonna run with this idea. I was like, I'm gonna take this Buzz Bounce game. Which, man, I haven't even explained what the game was. All right, so this game was basically, and I got the rough design on here too, man. So basically, it's a game that you can play with either by yourself against somebody else or with a team. And so the objective of the game is, if you're playing one-on-one, the objective of the game is basically think about it, there'll be 3 cups like on the table. It'll be one is your cup, another cup is your opponent's cup, and then there's a cup in the middle. And so the idea of buzz bounce, which is, the name that I came up with that I was running with for this game, was the objective of this game is to bounce I think it was like a quarter, or I ended up designing, it was like a plastic chip. So basically that was like in the shape of a quarter, or like a poker chip. Yeah. So basically the objective of the game was to bounce your quarter off of the table and make it land into the cup. And so in their cup, you had a certain amount of beer or liquor or alcohol or drink or whatever in that cup. All right. And so you and your opponent have the same amount. And then in the middle cup, there's twice as much. All right. And so the objective of the game is to bounce your quarter into the cup. And then once you make it into the cup, you get a drink. And then from there, after you made it into your own cup, your objective then becomes to bounce it into the middle cup. And then whoever bounces their coin into the middle cup first, they win the game. And then the other person, the loser, has to drink the middle cup, the middle cup that has more alcohol. So in this game, the winner and the loser both drink. The loser drinks more, the winner just drinks less. And it's a race, so it's fast paced. I mean, games could be like quick. It could go, it could be over like in seconds, the whole game. And that's one of the reasons I liked it so much. It was fast paced. You're racing against the clock. You're racing against your opponent. It was like, oh man, I gotta make this, and then you got kind of like you're worried, and then sometimes you rush, and then sometimes you bounce it, and then your quarter goes flying, and you're like, man, you're like diving for the quarter, you're racing back to get to the table so you can bounce it. You get like really, really competitive, and then it was just, to me, it was a faster, funner, more exciting, more like, it was a drinking game that it could incorporate more people, like games where it could end real fast. So, a whole bunch of people get the opportunity to play. And to me, it was just way funner than beer pong. And, beer pong was what was taking off. Like beer pong was what, all the college students were playing, and they had like you could buy like the whole beer pong tables at Spencer's in the mall and all kinds of stuff, and then you could buy the ping pong balls, and they had all this stuff, and it was there's people that were making money off of beer pong, selling beer pong products. And I was like, well, Buzz Bounce is funner. I was like, I like Buzz Bounce better than beer pong. And I was like, well, if there's companies out there making money off of that, I was like, I think like Buzz Bounce is better. And so I was like, man, we could be making money off of Buzz Bounce. So yeah. Oh, and then I forgot, man. Let me explain the teams. So you can have a team, and then so say like a 2-on-2. So there's 2 people on each team. So basically, you just add like another cup, and then so you have 2 people on one side, 2 people on the other side. So you have 2 cups on one side, 2 cups on the other side, and then still the 1 cup in the middle, and then basically, within a team, you each had like an individual cup, And basically, you play just with one coin. You play with one coin, and so you alternate tries in between you and your partner. So say I shoot first, I miss, my teammate shoots, and say they make it or whatever. All right. So, they get to drink their cup. So in this, each teammate, has to drink, they have to drink their cup. But, your teammate can help. Like if they made it first, say, like I said, they made it into their cup. All right. And then it's my turn. I shoot into to my cup. Say I miss. Well, then my teammate now is also shooting into my cup. And say my teammate bounces into my cup and makes it. Well, that's still my cup, so I have to drink it. So each teammate has to drink, one cup. And then they both have to have their cups finished before they could shoot for the middle cup. And then the same rule goes. The first team to shoot into the middle cup and make it, wins. But one of the rules is that you have to finish your cups first. You can't, say you bounce the coin off the table and it lands in the middle cup. Before you finish your cups, that means you lose. It's an automatic loss. So if you bounce it off the table into the cup, the middle cup, automatically lose. And then basically your team has to drink all the drinks on the table. So say this is 2-on-2. So there's 5 cups on the table, 2 on each side, 1 in the middle. Say I shoot, I'm the first one taking and these shots, it's not like it's not like I take a shot, like I bounce and try to make it into the cup first, and then the other team goes. No, they're happening simultaneously. It's a race. So I'm bouncing, my teammates bouncing, but at the same time, the other team is bouncing their teammates. They're still alternating shots too, and it's all happening simultaneously, and it was all a race against each other. But yeah, say if all 5 cups are on the table, I bounce it, I make it into the middle cup. That means my team has to drink all 5 drinks that are on the table, and I lose my drink, and my team has to drink all the drinks on the table. So yeah, man, it was to me, it was just, I'm telling you, it was way more fun, way more exciting, and it was some fun times, man. And I was like, let's come out with this game. I wanted to come out with this game, man. I was like, man, this is a viable idea, man. This is a real legit idea that we can do. So, yeah, man, I was like that, November 2010, I was like, all right, man, this is going to be my next move. Trying to get this buzz bounce going, turning it from a game that we would play into a game that we would play, with regular solo cups, man, and quarters, into like a legit, almost like a board game, tabletop, legit cups, specific coins and stuff like that, and also like a tabletop too, man, because we learned this, that the hard way is, if you're bouncing a quarter off of tables, depending on the type of table you have, there's sometimes when you try to bounce a table, a coin or a quarter off of a table and it doesn't bounce at all, especially with like some like really thin plastics, really thin plastics. Not thin plastics. I mean, no, because there's some. It's more soft plastics. The plastics are more like malleable that you can like kind of bend a little bit. There's some of those that you try to bounce a coin off of, and that coin just it hits and it just sticks to the table, no bounce. So there's no way you're gonna get enough height on your bounce to make it into a cup, because you gotta get get some air to make it into the cup. So yeah, so we learned the hard way at that. There's some materials of tables that just don't bounce right, and we also learned the hard way that bouncing coins off of wood surfaces can really mess up a wood finish. And I mean, you could get, like, especially if it's a soft wood, if you're talking like pine, like this is pine. This is it's considered a soft wood. So if you're bouncing a coin with any type of force, like real force off of this, then yeah, man, you're leaving like indentations like in the wood, and you can start like chipping away at the wood, and you can see all those marks of where you're bouncing a coin on the table, man. It shows up, man. So it beats up the table. It could beat up a table, and especially if you have like a really expensive table, you kind of don't want to be doing that like on really expensive table, because you don't want to mess up your expensive furniture. But yeah, so my idea was like, all right, man, I gotta turn this game that we play with a quarter and just off of any table that we could find into something that's an actual physical, like a legit product, that people would actually spend money to buy. This, the coins, the cups, and the table set and stuff like that. So yeah, man, I started working on it, man. I started like, all right, man, this is gonna be it. And then so my idea was always to bring in like my friends, Like I said, man, I wanna work. I was like, if I'm gonna work, I wanna work with my friends. At least I know I'm gonna get along with them. At least I know like we're gonna have fun like during the day, man. And that we're going to enjoy ourselves, and we're going to take, make a job, and have fun with it, man. And I always think that's the ultimate goal, man. That, if you can make a living working with your friends, I think, that's the best. I don't see how people work with, people that they don't like, man. I don't want to do that, and I've experienced that in the past, man. So man, I was like, if I'm gonna work on a business, man, I want to do it with my friends. So yeah, man. So the whole idea was like, all right. Once I realized, all right, man, turn this into a business, man. Turn this into some real, come up with a real product, and then just make this into something, man. I started coming up with like, all right, man, so what am I going to do, man? How I'm going to make this? So that's when actually like I already had like the little like designs and stuff like that, man. So I had the pictures like right here of like a tabletop, man. And then so basically the tabletop, I don't know if this is going to show up on camera because of the white paper and the reflection. But yeah, so basically, like the idea I had was almost into like converting it into a board game. That was gonna be one of the products, to have like a board game type of like setup. So think of like it would have to be like how like Monopoly. So if you have Monopoly, the board comes folded, and then you fold it up, unfold it, then you have your playing surface. My idea was like we could do that with like the tabletop for a game, so to have like and basically have it where it folds out, and it has like where you would place the cups on the locations of where you would place the cups on the board. So basically, they'll have a circle there. So, the cup goes there and the other cup goes there. And so one side of the board was going to be on one-on-one setup. So it would be like one circle on one side, one circle on the other side, and then one circle in the middle. So it'd be 3 circles on there, be a little setup. Then when you flip the board over, it's going to be the 2-on-2 setup. So basically that's going to have like, the extra circle on each side, so, for the whole 2-on-2 setup, each player with a cup. So yeah, man. So that was the one of the ideas for one of the original products, man, to come up with a table board like that. And then it was going to come with like cups. And then one thing that, I always hated about like beer pong, it was because, man, one of the things, man, and there was a little bit of this in the early stages of Buzz Bounce, man. There's a little bit. People like to cheat, man. People are some cheaters. So if you think about like just a regular like red Solo cup, blue Solo cup or whatever, and people would try to cheat on how much they would pour into their cup. So especially, it was more prevalent in beer pong because, because of the whole beer pong table, and, you're further away from the other team, you're a good distance. And then usually, the team is the own team is setting them up. So they're pouring the beers into their own cups. So you really don't know, how much they're pouring in. A team, man, people would cheat, man, and they would pour like little amounts into their cups. And yeah, man. So one way, I was gonna combat that with Buzz Bounce was I was gonna use clear cups, man, clear plastic cups. So you could physically see, how much, beverage, alcohol, drink, beer is in the other team's cup. So yeah, man. So I had it like that, and then so basically there was gonna be 2 cups. Well, there's gonna be 2 different cups. So there was gonna be the middle cup, and then like the team cups or whatever. So so like your own, like the personal team cups, those cups have, you're gonna put less of alcohol in there. So they're gonna be a clear cup, and basically they're gonna have a line around to mark the level of where you should fill the alcohol amount to. And then the middle cup, because there's more alcohol, like I said, there's twice as much alcohol like in the middle cup, that was gonna be double. So the mark on that was gonna be higher. So that was one of the things that was gonna be incorporated. That was gonna come with the board game. You call it like a travel kit or something. But yeah, so that was gonna be in it. There was also gonna be coins, like actual like a coin type, almost like a poker chip type, that were gonna come included into the package, into the whole deal. And one thing that I personally didn't like with like beer pong is man, that especially if you're playing like outdoors, man, with the beer pong, man, especially, and if you miss and that beer pong goes like bouncing into the grass, man, it gets like real dirty, man. I would see times where it's like covered in mud, and I'm like, all right, I mean, this isn't like completely sanitary. And then so, and usually we don't have no water around to like rinse it off or anything. So you could be you get to the point where you're just kind of like using your shirt to kind of like clean it off. But yeah, man, I was like, all right, if I'm gonna turn this into a legit game, I was like, I mean, because the same principle bounces or applies to a coin. I mean, that coin can bounce off and go, you know, it could go bouncing off and go off into a whole bunch of dirt or dust, or it could get dirty. So yeah, man. So one way I was gonna make the game more sanitary, because this is one of the reasons. Like I was like, all right, when I was coming up with the idea or developing the idea, it was like, all right, let's see what is the knock or what negative people could say, like not like something like the knock or just something like that could turn people off about the game. And one of it was like, oh man, they could be like, I don't want like a coin bouncing into my alcohol and then having to drink it. So one way I was gonna combat that was I designed like this little it was basically just a smaller version of another clear cup. So if you think of like a solo cup or whatever, you can see how they stack into each other. So my idea basically was to make a smaller cup so that cup fits into the cup where the beverage would be at, but doesn't hit the level of the alcohol. So and then basically what was going to serve the purpose of, it was going to catch the coin, and so your coin would never touch the alcohol. It was basically it just sits right on top, and basically, if you're bouncing a coin, it'll bounce into the mini cup, and that way, the coin never touches the alcohol or anything like that. So it's just a little more sanitary. So that was one of the ideas, that I had with that, man. And yeah, so I started working on this, started thinking about like materials, and then just coming out with a prototype version of this. And then so all this was in a push to make this, get the idea, get this idea coming, into make everything ready for once I graduate, and then I could get like real serious about it. And yeah, man, so came up with like a whole little prototype design, and yeah, it was cool, man. And then so there was one point where I was like, all right, man, let's start getting this name out there. And it was leading up to my graduation, and I wanted to get all this ready for there was one idea. I was like, all right, I'm graduating, like how can my target market, the people, the people that would buy this game are mostly college kids. And for some reason in my mind, I was like, all right, well, let me do some, like, I guess you could call it a stunt, a promotional stunt for my graduation, and then make that kind of like the like a launch, like a official announcement launch kind of type of thing, man. So I was pushing to get everything ready for that. And man, it was man, it was, thinking back, it was kind of a good idea, but it was, in reflection, if like I got to be like 100% honest with myself, It was probably one of the end idea was probably one of the stupidest ideas I've ever come up with in my life, man. And I'm gonna get into that, but yeah, so the whole idea was to all right, man, to like launch the website, use my graduation, like the actual ceremony, as a way to promote and get the Buzz Bounce name on there. And it was so my idea on how I was gonna do this. I was basically gonna pull some, stunts around U of H campus, like before the ceremony, officially launch like the website during the ceremony, and try to get people intrigued about what the hell Buzz Bounce is, and basically drag people to the website. And on the website, we're gonna have we shot a promo video. I think I still have that video on one of these like external hard drives. I probably still have that promo video saved somewhere, man. I just want to make sure that I want to thank like everybody that helped with the whole Buzz Bounce process, man. I mean, if you think of like the core team that I was building, the business around was me. It was Heavy, Hav, who was on episode 14. He was on episode 14 when we shot at the podcast, the podcast at the Pitch 25 brewery. Hav, Giddy, who's been on the podcast multiple times. Shay hasn't been on the podcast yet. Oh man, I gotta reach out to Shay. And if I'm missing somebody, I'm sorry. But yeah, there's also people that are other friends that helped out. Manda helped out. Becca helped out, and I think Peter helped out too. Peter was involved, and Diana. Diana was involved. If I'm missing anybody, I'm sorry. But yeah, so we shot a promo video for it, to build up a little hype. We were going to launch that like during the ceremony. Printed out like flyers, man. I printed out flyers, and then I had my friends, put them on during that May 2011, during that 2011, that May 2011 U of H graduation, man. If you had like a Buzz Bounce flyer on your car, if you went to the graduation, parked your car in the parking lot, and when you came back, you had a flyer on. Yeah, it was because my friends, they got up early, man, and they went out and they physically put flyers on like a whole bunch of cars during the ceremony. Everybody was wearing like Buzz Bounce shirts. It was it just reminds me, shout out to Bebo, because Bebo was the one who designed the Buzz Bounce logo. Yeah, everybody was wearing Buzz Bounce shirts. I remember I got Giddy to roll down a hill that was right there outside of Hoffein's Pavilion. There's like a little hill part. I got him to roll down the hill just to draw some attention. Because I remember one time, this was when Heavy was graduating. We were killing some time. We got there early. No. This was afterwards. We were waiting for him to come out. And then so we're killing time. And somehow it was like, came up into the conversation. We're like, hey, man, I bet you won't go roll down this hill right now. And then I remember Giddy was like, man, I'll do it. But he's like, you got to pay me. I was like, all right, how much you want? He was like, first it was like $1. But then he was like, nah, never mind. He was like, give me $2. I'll do it for $2. I was like, all right. Like, I got $2. So, no, I was like $1. And then he was like, yeah, I got $2. But then he was like, no. It has to be a $2 bill. And I was like, all right. I was like, you sure? I was like, you do it for a $2 bill? Giddy was positive that nobody had a $2 bill. So he ended up being wrong. I had a $2 bill on me. Pete, shout out to Pete. He pulls out like a whole wad of like $2 bills. And so, yeah, man, we ended up getting Giddy to roll down that hill. And once he rolled down that hill that day at Heavy's graduation, he became famous. Because like everybody knew him. Like everybody saw that. And then like when they were in the parking lot leaving, like people were like, hey, like pull over like in the car next to him. Hey, you were that guy that rolled down the hill. And then people recognized him. And then so he became famous. So I was like, hey, man, well, if that worked for, that got you some attention for Heavy's graduation, and that was just us bullshitting around. And I was like, why don't you do that for Buzz Bounce too? And then so, yeah, I got Giddy to roll down the hill for that. And here's where this is where I consider one of my stupidest ideas ever. I decided, because graduation, people usually decorate their caps, the top of their caps with something. I was like, yeah, well, I could do that, man, but it won't be any different from anybody else. Everybody's gonna be doing that. So I was like, man, if I'm gonna be different, I was like, I want to do something different, man, for people. Because I remember, like, going to those graduations that you would see people and then, like, in the stands and be like, oh, look at, like, that cap or whatever, and it sticks out. And then, so that kind of hits in people's minds. So I was like, all right, well, I got to use that real estate to, try to attract some attention. And so here's what I'm telling you. This is the part where I say this is one of my stupidest ideas ever, man. Till this day, this is up there. If not the stupidest idea I've ever came up with. I decided to strap a iPad onto the top of my cap. And I was gonna, on that iPad, I would basically have like, they'll have those apps where you could like basically, or like a screensaver app. So basically you could run like words, or almost become like a teleprompter or something, like like on the news, you see the lower thirds, or they'll run like news, the headlines and stuff of the day, and they'll flash it at the bottom. Well, I decided to strap an iPad to the top of my cap and basically use that to run words to promote Buzz Bounce, and try to get have buzzbounce.com find out. I think we had the saying was like, find out what the buzz is about, because we're running with the name Buzz, and everything incorporated was trying to get people like, what the hell, what buzz are they talking about? Go try to get people intrigued about it and drive everybody to buzzbounce.com, which officially launched the same day of my graduation, which if I look at my degree, I don't think I could read that far. It was May something, 2011. But yeah, so yeah, that idea, which it did give me a lot of attention, but the part where I consider it one of my stupidest ideas ever is because, this was 2011, man. This wasn't the iPad Air didn't exist yet, man. So technology, there's the tablets were still a little bulky. They had some weight to them. And oh my God. I'm going to tell you, if you hold an iPad, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, it's like a couple pounds, maybe like a pound. Like, it's not too bad. But then when you strap it to the top of your cap and wear it on your head, oh man, that thing is heavy. One thing I didn't take in part was like I tested it out and I was like, oh yeah, this will work. All right, this will be cool. One thing I didn't realize was, man, one thing I noticed that during testing it, I was like, you couldn't really move your head much because, the weight would shift and then like the cap would like fall off your head. So you had to keep your head still, your neck still. Oh my God. If I tell you, like, you won't believe me how much pain I was trying to keep my neck still for those, however long that ceremony takes, man. Well, that's one thing I didn't take in part. I didn't consider how long the graduation ceremony was, man. And yeah, so, I mean, I had to be there. I was one of the morning graduations, so I had to be there at like 6 a.m. I had to put that I was I had to have that on my head for a while, but yeah, just staying still or trying to keep my neck as still as possible so the weight doesn't shift and then my hat goes flying off. Like oh my God, it like put so much of a strain on my neck. My neck hurted so much, man. So much. It was ridiculous. And like the ceremony, I don't know, it had to be it was probably like an hour long. And like I could not wait to the graduation ceremony to be over. I just wanted to take that cap off of my head, man. That was like the first thing once the ceremony was over. That's the first thing I did. I was like, man, screw this. All right, like, damn, like get that off of my neck. It was so painful, man. And that pain, it didn't go away like fast. I'm telling you, like after graduation, I spent months with that pain in my neck. Like I could still feel it, like, oh my God. And then so, yeah, like the days would go by and I was like, yeah, that idea was stupid. Like I thought of that like immediately after like the graduation. I was like, oh yeah. I was like, cause I remember Giddy telling me, he's like, man, you better not chicken out. I was like, you better wear that thing on your head. You better have it. And he's like, he thought I was gonna like chicken out. No, I did it. But man, I told him, I was like, oh my God, that was like the iPad stupid idea. And it was not worth it. Not worth the pain I put on my neck. It's probably why probably has a little bit of something to do with why my neck hurts right now. I'm sure of it because I felt it like, I'm telling you, months. It didn't ease up for months afterwards. But yeah, man, just thinking about, man, the launch, getting the video out there, man, the video got some traction. I remember that. This was back in the day, man. I remember it hit at least, it had over 1,000 views, and then, it got some little buzz on it and stuff like that. But yeah, man. So like after graduation, I started working on that. We ended up launching. We ended up doing a tournament. We did end up doing a tournament because one of the ideas I had for this whole the whole the game was to make it more of like a was incorporate people's have like actual live events to promote it, man. Have tournaments, so I scheduled like I came up with like a tournament, like a tournament, official tournament to what was it to what did I say? It was to determine the official world rankings. So basically this tournament was to basically find out who was the best Buzz Bounce player in the world. And yeah, I had a whole little tournament for it, man, which was fun. Like I think I had it was probably like July. It was in the summer of 2011. Held it here, held it at my house. And yeah, man, I had a one-on-one tournament. And I had 2-on-2. It's a tag team tournament, man. And then so basically it was to determine, I was like, who's the best, Buzz Bounce player in the world, and who's the best tag team duo in the world too. And yeah, man. So that's when we used the prototypes that I had for it, and man, it was fun, man. I made trophies. Like I'm talking about like big, not like little trophies. I mean like pretty good sized trophies, man. A huge trophy that went to the whoever wins the one-on-one tournament, and little smaller trophies, but they're still pretty good size for whoever wins the tag team. And yeah, man. We had a competition, man, and I had some friends. It was a good amount of people come over, and we had the tournament, man, and like afterwards, I was like, remember who won the. It was basically just a way to promote Buzz Bounce and get some people, more introduced to the game, like. And then, show them how fun it is, how much, see like an actual competition and how it goes, how it gets super competitive and gets super fun. Then incorporate with the whole ranking system and have like the tournament style where we had the board, where we had the matchups of who goes against who. And then like the March Madness brackets, we whittle it down like rounds and rounds until we get a champion, man. And, I remember, I think, I know I lost pretty early in the one-on-one tournaments. I lost pretty early. It was probably one of those fluke matches where the matches, I probably got beat. I don't remember who beat me, but I probably got beat in 2 shots. Like 2 bounces, man. And so I'm talking about like in seconds. Like I remember I still hadn't even made it in my cup. And then first bounce, the other person makes it into their cup, like on the first bounce, drinks it. Second bounce, they make it into the middle cup. And then like in a matter of like 30 seconds, the founder of Buzz Bounce is out of the one-on-one tournaments. And at that time, I'm probably one of the most experienced Buzz Bounce players in the world. So going into it, I was like probably like the heavy favorite. So losing in the one-on-ones, it was tough. Losing like that on 2 shots, I was like, man, I was like, I really didn't have a chance. Like I missed my first shot, and after that, it was pretty much over. So I missed it. They made it. When I'm going to make I think I took the second shot, and then on the second shot, I made it into my first cup. But by that time, they already made it into the middle cup. They finished their shot, their drink. made it into their drink. Then going into they already made it to the middle cup. So yeah, I lost. So yeah, man. I remember who won. Who's number one? I know the number one buzz bounce player in the world. It was my boy Juan Castañeda. He ended up winning the 1-on-1, and my boy FM. Shout out to FM. He ended up shout out to Juan. He ended up winning. He came in 2. I know he was 2. So Juan ended up being the number 1 ranked buzz bounce player in the world. I remember FM was 2nd. He was number 2 on the list. Is ranked number 2 on the buzz bounce. Number 2. He was the number 2 ranked buzz bounce player in the world. And the tag team, I did win. When me and my teammate, I remember winning the tag team. It was me and my boy Antonio Sanchez, man. Tonio, me and him, we won the tag team championship. So shout out to my boy Tonio. He was one half of the tag team champions of the world. So yeah, man. That tournament was fun, man. It was fun. It was good, man. It was exciting. And from there, I started looking into manufacturers who could actually produce like a final like retail version of the products. And I remember setting up a meeting with one of the manufacturers. I found a manufacturer who had like the capabilities to produce like a retail product. And I was gonna set up a meeting with them to go out and just talk to them, show them, tell them what I'm looking for, see if they could be able to produce it, and then also find like how much it's gonna cost me to actually produce. And so I had that meeting set up, but I ended up canceling it, man. And I ended up canceling it because during this whole time when I'm trying to, get Buzz Bounce going, man, get it off the ground, working on, making a legit product, and doing this like after graduation. During that time, which, I didn't realize it, but I was already feeling like the symptoms of my autoimmune disorder. And so I was already feeling extra tired. My body was already extra hurting. And, after graduating, like I really wasn't working much at the shop. So at that point, like my main focus was Buzz Bounce and building Buzz Bounce. So I was doing that for the majority of the time. I was still at the shop, but I wasn't working as much. Like I'd still go in every once in a while, do some. I was still pretty much like the dedicated painter at the shop, So every card that came to the shop, like I painted, and then. Especially, like all the like the high end jobs, like when we had like fancy expensive cars, like I would do all those. But yeah, man, so I would still go every once in a while, at the minimum, like paint a car and do that because, I was still like, because I'll explain. I had a shop with me and my uncle. We owned the shop together, and then so, we had some workers and stuff like that, but still out of everybody, I ended up developing into the best painter there. And then so, and it was, clearly I was the best painter. And so once everybody realized that, we're like, all right, well, let's have you paint all the cars then, because it just makes life a little easier, and make like the jobs would come out better, and it'll minimize the amount of time we have to spend on like if there's any mistakes in like the paint job, fixing any of the mistakes, taking out like any runs in the clear, or like if there's a whole bunch of orange peel in the clear. So what orange peel is, if you look at a car or whatever, it's basically just like you see like little like waves, or little, almost like the surface isn't smooth, so you can see like it kind of goes up and down, stuff like that. So sometimes you could get a car with a whole bunch of orange peel if you didn't spray the car right. And then so wet sanding that down to buff it could take a lot of time. So yeah, man. I'm getting distracted talking about the shop stuff, but yeah, let me get back to Buzz Bounce. So yeah, so I wasn't working at the shop as much, and then so basically up to that point, I always blamed working at the shop and the physically demanding work I was doing at the shop as the reason why I was always tired and why my body was always hurting. But after graduation, focusing on Buzz Bounce, I realized my body's still hurting, and I was like, I'm not doing the physically demanding work anymore. And it was kind of like made me question. I was like, all right, why am I feeling like this? And so it was during this time when I went to the doctor, and then that was a whole process of getting sent to different specialists and all this other stuff, and getting put on medications, and until they finally realized what was going on. And that took a little while. But during all that stuff, I got put on some medication where the medication is known to be fatal to the people who take it. There's a chance, if you take this medication, you could die. And so another thing it affected was that, because it was known to be fatal. It could have like some bad, effects on your kidney and stuff like that. I remember having to sign like a whole bunch of like paperwork when I went to the pharmacy to go pick it up, saying that they're not going to be held responsible for all this other kind of stuff. If I die by taking this and all, you had to sign like a whole bunch of waivers taking this medication. But yeah, so I got put on that medication, and basically once I got put on the medication, like I had to stop drinking. And that was because that medication, it was known to be fatal, but if I drink any alcohol, the chances of me dying go up, because that medication caused like kidney failures, and then the alcohol, it's a drug interaction, and then so the chances of me dying would go up. So yeah, once I found out, I was like, okay, well, I'll stop drinking. And so yeah, man, so I had to stop drinking. And during all of this, me going through all the doctor's appointments, finding this all out, me feeling like crap, yeah, man, I kind of like pushed Buzz Bounce, put it on hold for a little bit, man. I just put it on hold. And then once I got put on that medication that could kill me, and if I drank alcohol, like I had to stop. If I drank alcohol, chance would go up, when I stopped actually drinking. When I got to that point when I had to stop drinking, I was like, I started thinking about, Buzz Bounce, and then I was like, all right, well, Buzz Bounce is a drinking game. So I can't drink anymore. And it turns out, man, I was just like, I have like a certain set of like morals and, ethics that, that I kind of hold myself to. And which is, sometimes it's a different standard that I guess normal society holds themselves to. But, I got my own set. And my own set's really what I care about. And I just couldn't get myself to like, okay, let me launch a drinking game. Let me push a drinking game. But I'm pushing a product that I can't really, well, I could still use it, but I wouldn't really be drinking it. I wouldn't be drinking. I would have to play with like, non-alcoholic beverages. And then so I'm playing with non-alcoholic beverages and going against people who are drinking, and then that, and I just couldn't see myself, I just couldn't see myself pushing a product that technically I couldn't really use. I couldn't see myself, pushing a drinking game and then not being able to drink, and then not having like, I'm going to be the founder of Buzz Bounce, the founder of this drinking game, so that's going to like, people are going to want to play the game, see how it's played. They're going to want to play against me. Like, oh, this guy founded it, man. I want to play against that guy. I was like, I want to play against the founder, man. And then so I knew that situation was going to come up, and I was like, man, I just can't, can't sell a product that I'm not using really. And I just couldn't see myself, pushing a drinking game and then not being able to drink at the same time. It just, I couldn't do it. I felt it was wrong. I just, like, inside, I felt it was wrong. It wasn't something that I should do. I mean, it's just, it's something I couldn't do personally. I just didn't see it working out. I just felt it was wrong, man. No other reason. I just felt it was wrong. And then I was like, I can't do it. And that's what basically I decided, man. Basically, I decided, I was like, you know what? I can't push the drinking game and not drink. So I was like, yo, man, I think that's it. I was like, I was the founder, but and I mean, I had my people that were the gang that was helping me out with it, but I was like, at that point, I mean, all the other people had like their own jobs and their own time, and then so when I got to like pass the prototype, pass the tournament, the build up to the tournament, all that, I started doing most of the things like the designing and all this other things, the looking for stuff, looking for manufacturers, all this other stuff. I was doing it like most by myself, really. So yeah, I was doing most of that like on my own. And then I was like, you know what, man, I'm sure, like, I don't know if I talked to the guys about this, man. I don't know if I told them that, that this was the reason that I, ended Buzz Bounce, man. I stopped Buzz Bounce, man. So yeah, man. I don't know if I told them I had sat down with this conversation. I don't know. I think it was just something that, I'd kind of like, I don't remember right, if I kind of kept them in loop with like the stuff I was doing. But, at the same time, I wasn't, I had asked a lot from them, man. They put in like a lot of work leading up to the tournament. And then I asked them to be like, to spend their free time, man, their extra time that they had, off of their regular job, man, to help me with this. I remember like the day of my graduation, me and Giddy were editing the video together and getting the website ready. We were there probably at his house to probably like 2 a.m., man, 2 a.m. And like I had to be there at like 6. And so I ended up having to be up at like something like 5 o'clock or something, or 4 or something. So I got like no sleep, and he got there early too, so he was like on little sleep. And I asked those guys, man, they were out there in the parking lots putting flyers in cars for me, man. They were taking time out to shoot like a promo videos for Buzz Bounce, man. They were recording this, man, out of their free time, and you know, I couldn't really pay them for them doing this. They were doing all this for free. So yeah, man, and like helping with the tournament, helping setting all that up, man. I was like, they took time out to come do this, man. And yeah, man, I couldn't pay them. I was like, Buzz Bounce wasn't making any money. I was like, we weren't seeing any money off of Buzz Bounce. I was like, yeah, so it got to the point, where I was like, all right, after the tournament, I started, let me ask less from them. I was like, I think I probably ended up pushing them a little too hard, and I realized that from now into just growing as a person. Just you realize that kind of stuff. I think I had a conversation about this with Giddy, and yeah, man, I might have been a little too tough on them, and then I kind of probably went to kind of like, I guess I kind of didn't realize the time they were putting in and the effort they had to take, to do this. I didn't realize how much of an effort it was. I mean, to me, I'm a weirdo. I stay working like all the time. Like I don't shut off. So for me, I was like, all right, I kind of want to go. Just go. Let's do this. Let's keep it moving. Let's keep it moving. Let's keep it moving. And I was like, man. I was like, at the same time, I was like, yo, man, they need some time off, man. I was like, they work full-time jobs too. I was like, they're doing this for free. And then so yeah, man. So yeah, so basically after the tournament, I started doing everything by my own, and it just kind of like, I wasn't asking them to do much or anything with Buzz Bounce. I was getting it ready. I was trying to get everything ready before, before we could actually launch. And I still, I was like, they're still part of the team. I still considered them part of the team, but it was just more of like, all right, well, I'm the one with more time, and let me do this. Let me get them ready, get all this stuff ready, and then once we have this all ready, then I could bring them on. Then I could tell them, I was like, okay, keep them updated. Like, oh, this was happening. This is what I'm doing. And then this is what's going on. And yeah, so basically, the it kind of Buzz Bounce kind of just with my whole health, it just kind of, it just kind of faded off. And I put it on hold until I got prescribed my medication, and then I was like, can't drink. I was like, I feel like I can't push this drinking game. So I was like, yeah, man. I was like, I think that's the end. I was like, and that's really what ended Buzz Bounce. What ended Buzz Bounce was my health. And I was like, I got to the point, I don't drink anymore. So I was like, I can't drink anymore. And, I just felt it just wasn't right. So I just kind of let it die, man. And I was like, all right, man, it was cool. It was fun. I was like, I thought it was a good idea, but it's not, it got to the point where it wasn't worth pursuing anymore, And so, yeah, man, I was like, that's kind of how Buzz Bounce died. And yeah, so that's, I think, pretty much wraps it, man. That's the story of Buzz Bounce, man. That's what Buzz Bounce was, and then that's how it ended. And yeah, man. And so I feel like I had to share this, just from what Loon was asking about, like after the episode. He asked me, he's like, "What happened with Buzz Bounce, man?" And so, yeah, so I told him, and I was like, yeah, I think this is a good short story to tell. And, I thought I'd tell y'all, man. So, Yeah, man, that's what this episode was about, man. Also got some news though, man. We got an official launch date for the clothing line. Official launch date for the clothing line, man. And it's let me do the official launch date for the clothing line is March 1st, Wednesday, March 1st, 2009. That's when the official launch of the clothing line is going to be, man. That's when this shirt is going to be available, man. The day one shirt, man. Available online at Defynest.com. And like I said, this shirt's only going to be available for a week, man. It's only going to be available for a week. And, man, it's going to be on the website where you can buy it on there. And man, it's gonna sell for this shirt is gonna sell for $30. So one of the reasons why it's $30 is because, well, this shirt is not an expensive shirt, man. Like I could have cheaped out with the materials. I could have got something else, man. But this shirt, I wanted it to be special, man. I wanted this to be legit. I wanted it to be a nice shirt. I wanted it to look fly. I wanted it to have like the finest on the side. And I wanted, the logo to be colored out like this and this and the fabric and everything. So yeah, man, I chose probably like the most expensive fabric for this shirt. For this version of the shirt, man. So on March 1st, what's going to be available is going to be this shirt. This is the day one t-shirt. This is day one t-shirt, and this is a tri-blend. It's a tri-blend fabric. And man, so this is day one t-shirt. There's also going to be a day one tank. So yeah, man, had to make a tank. Houston is hot, and then plus, Izzy, man, had to go and say that he wanted, it's like, oh man, I told him that I was making the shirts or making this clothing line and giving away free shirts. Of course, out of nowhere, he's like, oh, I want a tank. I was like, even though I was planning to just do shirts, I was like, oh, he said tank. So I was like, all right, so I'm gonna make it a tank too. So there's gonna be this design in a tank version, and also wanted to do, this is actually it's a unisex, so male or female, but it's a unisex t-shirt. The tank is also unisex, but I was like, all right, I got to do something for the ladies too. Anyone who wants to support like a lady who wants a more form-fitting shirt. So man, there's a ladies and it's gonna be a ladies scoop neck. So it's gonna have like a scoop neck. So so it's gonna be a little wider at the neck, and it's gonna be more fitted. It's fitted for women. So man, making that design out too. I got to get a shout out to Heidi because because she was the first girl on the Defynest podcast. I was like, you know what? Let me reach out to her, and I gave her like a couple of options of designs for the shirt, and man, I let her pick. I was like, all right, look. I told her, I was like, look, I'm gonna make a more women's fitted like t-shirt for the day ones. And I asked her like, all right, here's some options, pick whichever one you like. And that's the one I'm gonna run for the women's shirt. So yeah, she picked the scoop neck. So shout out to Heidi for picking that out. So I got a women's scoop neck of the Defynest day one t-shirt that's gonna be up there. And I got a tall T version for the tall homies, man. So yeah, man, I had to do a tall T version for them. I was like, I can't have Laylo running around here with a little crop top or whatever, man, if the shirt doesn't fit him, because he's pretty tall. I was like, y'all seen him on here. So yeah, I made a little tall T version for him, and so yeah, I'm gonna have a tall T version available too. Also, we got the day. Actually, no. So that shirt. So the day one tee, the day one tall tee, the day one tank, and the day one women's scoop neck. So that's going to be available for just 1 week. And so it's going to be $30. If y'all want me to rationalize it like this, so think about it like this, man. I was like, $30 is going to help, define us out. And you're also getting a shirt in return, so maybe think about it, if you don't want to spend $30 on a shirt, don't think of it as just a shirt, man. You're also helping out the Defynest movement that we got going. So yeah, man. So those are only going to be available for a week, but I'm also putting up like some hats, and these hats are going to be available on there too. So this specific one, turns out that I'm probably going to be the only one rocking this for a little while, man, because heard back from my supplier, and it turns out that they're temporarily out of stock on this black vintage, dad hat, or whatever it's called. But yeah, they're temporarily out of stock until like end of May. But I'm gonna have up there a navy version of this vintage style, and that's gonna have like the same colors on the logo. But then I also had a maroon vintage version too, and that one, the logo's in black, all in black. So yeah, those are going to be available on the website too. They're going to be $30 too. And for now, that's what I'm gonna launch. I was like, for now, that's just going to be it. I'll be dropping more stuff like in the later on, and I'll be making, different designs available. But like I said, this shirt only gonna be available 1 week. I'm never gonna print a shirt any other time. So make sure to cop that. Make sure to, if you want to show your support for the Defynest Podcast, get that. And, you could be one of the day ones, man, that have been listening to it, been watching, from the beginning. Because really, like, me making this shirt, it was really just the way that, I wanted to thank all the guests who've been on the podcast. So, yeah. So I'm giving, like, I made this shirt so I could give it away, but and those orders are, and be on the lookout, man. They've been ordered, man. So they're probably be coming maybe with the holiday, because it's Easter weekend that I'm filming this on. They're probably maybe like early next week. Early next week they might come in, but so they're in, and expect them like early next week, man. So all the guests, man, you'll be receiving your free shirt in the mail soon, man. And except Heidi, I need to get with Heidi, because I need to get her to decide which one she wants. But yeah, man, thanks for listening to the podcast. It's we're on YouTube. Search Defynest, Defynest.com, Defynest on Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, all those other things. Yeah, man, I really appreciate y'all listening to me, and man, until next time, man, remember to defy the definition.